In a world of myth and magic, beings of immense power clash in epic battles, with godlike warriors standing against colossal dragons. They are known as raiders. Their job is to hunt down the monsters that threaten humanity and obtain valuable loot from them. In doing so, they have become celebrities, heroes who protect the innocent. It is without a doubt a hazardous profession, but for their bravery, people call them heroes and look up to them, their images broadcast for all to see. A young man named Jaehyun sits alone in his dark room, surrounded by trash, watching the heroes on his screen with a feeling of longing. It is the single profession that makes one's heart race. Jaehyun glares at the screen, his amber eyes flashing red with intense frustration and determination. That is what being a raider is. But behind the glory, there's a darker truth to this life. A raider's heart thumps in their chest, beating the fastest not in moments of glory, but in moments of pure terror. As he stares death right in the face, gritting his teeth against the inevitable. Engulfed in a blaze of fire, the raider's life hangs by a thread. The clang of a dropped weapon often signals the tragic end of a career. The scene shifts to a quiet cafe, where Jaehyun is meeting with someone. Suddenly, a loud slam echoes through the cafe. Jaehyun flinches as he is called a bastard. Jaehyun shouts back in anger, "Are you seriously telling me to be a meat shield?" A man in a suit and glasses, Yumin Jong, calmly replies, Hey, try looking at it in a different light. Didn't you say you needed some quick cash anyway?" Jaehyun seethes with frustration. "Damn it, I thought it was weird in the first place to let me into this campaign." This guy's name is Yumin Jong. He works at a raider agency and handles the distribution of contracts for guildless freelance raiders like Jaehyun. Jaehyun recalls how, when Yumin had contacted him out of the blue, he was initially thrilled at the prospect of some long-awaited work, a feeling that now seems like a distant memory. But that brief moment of happiness shattered upon reading the actual request. Jaehyun groans in despair. They wanted him to be the vanguard in a dungeon crawling with undead, armed with only a single shield. In other words, they wanted him to be expendable cannon fodder. He sighs, looking at Yumin with tired eyes. "Yumin, why do I only get jobs like these? Even the ones below my rank receive way better contracts than I do." Yumin looks back, his expression a mix of pity and pragmatism. "You know the answer to that. That's just how the market is at the moment," Yumin explains. "Even high-ranking brawlers seldom receive contract offers." Jaehyun snaps back, "Okay, so, you're calling me a brawler, is that it?" Jaehyun continues sarcastically, "Well, I'm sorry for being such a drawl, good sir." Yumin adjusts his glasses and says bluntly, "To be quite frank with you, yes." Yumin lays out the harsh reality. Magic users pretty much run the show nowadays. And compared to them, brawlers are slower to get the job done, plus they're much more prone to injuries, which in turn makes them less desirable in the eyes of an employer. And that was the hard truth. While mages could safely hunt monsters from behind with powerful magic, raiders on the front line, like brawlers, were exposed to immediate danger and subjected to far more injuries. It's no secret that mages have a clear upper hand in open battle. Jaehyun grits his teeth, a single bead of sweat rolling down his face. "I'm aware of it. It's not like it was a decade ago. There's no place for brawlers anymore." The regret hits him with full force. "Damn it, I should have become a mage back then when I still had a choice." His mind flashes back 11 years ago, to his third and final year in middle school. A time of great potential. Back then, he had received high marks on his awakened aptitude exam, which gave him the opportunity to enroll at the prestigious Millis Academy of Raider Advancement. His aptitude for magic back then was a staggering 97%. To put that in perspective, Inacio, the individual who now stands atop the mage world, only had an aptitude score of 92% at the time. Looking back on it, that 97% was completely ludicrous in every sense of the word. On the other side, his aptitude for melee fighting was only 34%. But in the end, despite the numbers, he chose to become a brawler. He didn't have any ambitious or flashy reason for his choice. It was because the general attitude towards magic wielders back then was abysmal, to say the least. This was because the general attitude toward magic wielders back then was abysmal. They were ostracized and seen as a separate, weaker class, incapable of dispatching even the lowliest of mobs without a brawler's aid. Their only recognized use was in supplying party buffs from the safety of the rear. However, in the 11 years that followed, things have changed. Brawlers have become obsolete, and mages are now lauded by the public. The flashback ends, leaving Jaehyun to ponder his bitter reality. Had I taken the path as a mage 11 years ago, would I be leading a better life now? As a general rule, a raider's development stops when they reach 20 years of age. For Jaehyun, it feels like he's drowning, his potential forever capped. But he pushes the regret down. Yumin leans in, putting on a facade of generosity. An opportunity like this doesn't come by very often. I was going to give this job to another raider, but I came to you first, knowing your situation and all. Jaehyun's mind races. There was a time when my talents were the envy of all who chose to become mages. He clenches his fist, the frustration boiling inside him. But all I am at the moment is an unremarkable D-rank brawler. How far I have fallen. With a heavy sigh he relents. Fine, I'll do it. A tense silence hangs in the air as the deal is struck. As he gets up, Jaehyun admits to himself that he never had a choice. In this business, you can't be picky if you want to survive. Yumin's professional demeanor instantly vanishes, replaced by a beaming, triumphant smile. Oh, glad to hear it. That settles it then, Yumin says cheerfully. We'll send you the location by 8 a.m. tomorrow. See you there. Don't be late. Jaehyun grabs his drink to leave, but Yumin adds with a smirk, see you there? You've got a full plate with agency work. Jaehyun dismisses him, but Yumin reveals, sorry, but I can't. I have business there tomorrow as well, clinking his mug with an air of mystery. The next day, a large group of raiders assembles in a forest clearing before a swirling blue dungeon gate. Jaehyun, now in his combat gear, leans against a tree, waiting. He checks his phone. It's 8:52 a.m. Yumin, you bastard, he mutters. See you tomorrow, my ass. I don't see him anywhere. He sighs, annoyed. Don't say that if you're not gonna show up. He reasons that Yumin would be better off doing business with a more capable raider anyway. He glances over at the other members of the raid party. He compares himself to the agent. At my best, I'm just a D-rank brawler, but Yumin is an A-rank mage. He can't help but wonder. He could pick any top guild out there, so why waste his valuable time in a place like that? He scoffs at a fellow brawler, thinking he'll wear out his shield. His thoughts trail off as a dark premonition washes over him. A shadowy, menacing version of himself flickers in his mind's eye. The voice of his own self-loathing whispers, "You worthless fool." He flinches as a voice calls his name, snapping him out of the dark trance. A friendly, older brawler clad in heavy armor waves at him. "Great to see you again. He got you too, huh?" the old man asks. Jaehyun smiles wryly. "Yeah, I just needed some work." The man nods. "These runs are dangerous, but they do pay." Jaehyun agrees, adding that it's because brawlers have nowhere else to go. This fires up the old man, who complains loudly that kids these days have no respect for their class and just want to shoot fireballs. But Jaehyun's mind is elsewhere. He frowns, his eyes glowing red. To hell with being cool, he thinks. I'm on the verge of starving to death. The old brawler nudges him, trying to lift his spirits. Well, whatever. Let's watch each other's backs. How about we crack open a cold one after this? Jaehyun musters a slight smile, his voice flat. Sure. That sounds swell. Jaehyun starts to explain his financial situation. But the thing is, I don't have any money, but his friend cuts him off. Nope. I spotted you last time. Remember? Jaehyun is touched by his friend's generosity, scratching his neck in silence. The old man peeks over, seeing his friend's reaction. He groans theatrically, putting on a show. Ugh. Darn it. Fine, fine. He clears his throat, pretending to be firm. But this is the last time I'm paying, okay? I mean it. Jaehyun beams, playing along. I'm in your debt once again. Sorry for being such a burden. He thinks to himself with a smirk. Heh, works every time. Their friendly banter is cut short as a man in a suit barks an order. Everyone, assemble at the dungeon entrance. The raid manager announces, T-minus 30 minutes until entry. The various raiders in the party begin to ready their gear, the atmosphere growing tense. The old brawler gives Jaehyun a final nod. Phew, I better go get ready. He trudges off to join the others. Jaehyun lets out a sigh, finding a moment of solitude to check his phone. He quietly unlocks his phone, his expression turning serious. When entering a dungeon, a raider has to keep in mind two things. As he prepares to enter, Jaehyun goes over the two cardinal rules of dungeon raiding. The first, and perhaps most seductive danger, concerns the discovery of a boon. It's a lucky find, a treasure chest discovered amidst the chaos. For any raider, it's a moment of incredible fortune, a reward that makes all the fighting worthwhile. But that fleeting joy can dull your mind and snuff out all reason in an instant, causing you to drop your guard. And in that moment of mental obscurity when caution has been thrown to the wind, the dungeon will test you, for the chest itself may be a monster in disguise. What was once a blessing becomes a tragedy, as the mimic devours the careless raiders. His friend calls out, pulling him from his thoughts. Ha! Glued to that phone of yours again? His friend teases. He smirks. You do that every time before we head into a dungeon. So what have you got there? Is it a photo of your girlfriend or something? Jaehyun quietly replies, It's nothing. But a soft, warm grin spreads across his face as he looks at the screen. He's looking at a photo of him with his mother. I'll be back before you know it, Mom, he silently vows. With his resolve strengthened, Jaehyun joins the other raiders as they march towards the shimmering dungeon gate. The team enters the A-rank dungeon, a vast, crumbling ruin that rumbles with dark energy. Immediately, they are met with the horrifying roars of a horde of undead ghouls. An arrogant mage leader barks orders from the back. Hey, front line, hold those shields up straight. Maintain formation and hold fast. He continues to berate them. How many times do I have to say it, you knuckleheads? I don't care if you die. Stand your ground. Jaehyun can only click his tongue in annoyance. A zombie's claw swipes at his face, and Jaehyun grits his teeth. For Pete's sake, this is absurd. Behind the struggling front line, the mages begin their chant. They channel their mana, preparing to unleash a devastating fire spell. With a great whoosh, a massive fireball hurtles towards the undead horde. Jaehyun and the other brawlers brace themselves, their shields taking the brunt of the magical backdraft. The spell makes contact, erupting in a huge explosion that engulfs the front lines in blinding light and intense heat. The dungeon erupts in a fiery blast as the raid team engages the enemy. Amidst the crackling flames, Jaehyun, a D-rank brawler, stands his ground with his shield, his expression grim and focused. He glances back, a flicker of concern in his amber eyes as the battle rages on. Jaehyun recalls the formidable mages that just joined their party. The Yuzeong Guild, a rising force. They are a new mage guild that has quickly made a name for themselves, clearing numerous difficult challenges with their powerful magic. Jaehyun watches the embers of their spells fade, a sense of reassurance washing over him. He thinks to himself that, with such powerful allies, his chances of survival have just gone up. After the battle, the raiders take a short break in a quieter section of the dungeon. A veteran raider, weary from the fight, takes a refreshing gulp from his tumbler and sighs in relief. He turns to Jaehyun, a friendly smile on his face. Phew, just one more boss left, right? He asks, trying to lift the mood. The veteran raider looks at his own stats, letting out a sigh. My age is catching up to me. If I'd known I'd end up like this, I would have worked harder on leveling up. Jaehyun offers a word of encouragement. Come on, you're still in your prime years, and your level is higher than me. The veteran then asks if Jaehyun managed to get any good loot from the recent fight. Jaehyun admits, I couldn't find anything useful. But then again, this is only an A-rank dungeon. Jaehyun decides to check his own findings. To be honest, I'm not really sure. I'll look through what I got now, he says, activating his system window. He swipes his finger across the holographic interface, scrolling through his inventory. Suddenly, his eyes narrow. Something is wrong. His system window begins to glitch violently, the interface dissolving into a mess of buzzing, corrupted data. The screen's erratic light illuminates Jaehyun's shocked face in the darkness. A sharp pain shoots through his head, and he instinctively clutches it, groaning in agony. Sweat beads on his forehead as the sensation subsides, leaving him bewildered. What was that just now? A new, unfamiliar message flashes before his eyes. Its text strangely mirrored. Asur system has been downloaded. Immediately followed by a critical error notification. Asur system went down. User connection will be temporarily interrupted. Jaehyun is stunned. His personal system, the one thing all raiders rely on, has crashed. He's never seen or heard of anything like this happening before, a system failing so catastrophically. Just as he's processing the shutdown, a final message confirms the worst. An unknown error has caused the rebooting process to fail. The system is completely dead. Jaehyun stares blankly at the floating error message. His system failed to reboot. He wonders what this new development is all about. Just then, small, glowing green orbs of light begin to materialize around him, whirling softly. A mysterious, ethereal voice echoes in his mind, commanding him to follow the light. Startled by the voice, Jaehyun's eyes widen, one of them flaring red with shock and confusion. The strange chimes continue as he tries to process the impossible event that just occurred. Another frantic error message flashes, even more alarming than the last. An unknown entity has infiltrated the Asur system. The system desperately tries to recover, but the attempt is useless. A final, decisive message flashes. Failed. Jaehyun is left reeling. An unknown entity? And what was that voice he heard just now? He mutters to himself, putting the pieces together. Does it want me to follow the light? His companion, the veteran raider, notices his strange behavior. Jaehyun, what was that just now? He asks, concerned. Jaehyun turns, trying to appear normal, but a bead of sweat rolls down his face. Oh, I just heard a voice telling me to follow the light, he admits, his eyes reflecting the strange phenomenon only he can see. The glowing orbs now drift around the veteran raider, who remains completely oblivious to their presence. The lights stream through the entire area, passing by the other resting party members, none of whom react. Jaehyun stares in disbelief, a cold sweat forming on his brow. What the? He realizes with a jolt that the voice's command must have been referring to these mysterious lights. Noticing Jaehyun's pale face and sweat, the veteran raider grows more worried. Hey, maybe you should lie down a bit. You don't look so well. Jaehyun quickly dismisses him, his gaze darting around. Huh? No, I'm okay. I'm perfectly fine. A chilling thought crosses his mind. That thing just now. No one else noticed it? The lights pay no mind to the raiders, continuing their journey into a dark, unexplored corridor of the dungeon. Jaehyun swallows hard, his mind racing. This is an unprecedented situation. But in his desperate situation, a strange, unexplainable phenomenon might be a lifeline. He decides it might be worth investigating. Suddenly, he springs to his feet. Hey, where are you off to all of a sudden? His companion asks, surprised. Jaehyun replies without looking back. Don't worry, I won't be gone long. With a look of grim determination, Jaehyun heads into the darkness, leaving his concerned teammate behind as he chases the path the mysterious lights revealed. What the hell is going on here? Jaehyun stands alone in a cavern, drawn forward by a mysterious light. As he gets closer, he reaches out his hand, intrigued by the glowing particles in the air. Suddenly, his interface glitches. A dire message appears. The Asur system has gone down, and he's unable to bring up his status window. Looking at the malfunctioning holographic display, Jaehyun calmly concludes that the system is no longer usable. But just as he resigns himself to the issue, another notification pings, catching his attention. The system alerts him to partial data corruption and begins attempting a reboot in safe mode. Jaehyun lets out a frustrated sigh, wondering what's going on with his system. It seems he just can't catch a break. He reflects on the fact that in the 17 years since he became an awakened at the age of 10, the system has never once gone down. He's never experienced data corruption or system reboots in his entire career as a raider. He starts to connect the dots, suspecting that the strange voice he heard earlier must be tied to this unprecedented system failure. His theory gains weight as a new, glitchy message reveals the system was infiltrated by an unknown entity at the same time it went down. He flashes back to the moment it happened, remembering the voice he heard while with his party. It was a strange voice that had urged him to follow the light, leading him to this very spot. Putting it all together, Jaehyun theorizes that the Asur system might be undergoing some kind of transformation as he continues to walk into the darkness. The Asur system, a system that got its name from Norse mythology, referring to the pantheon of Asgard, which includes the mighty Odin and Thor. It was the final saving grace for humankind, which had fallen deep into the pit of despair. The scene shifts, taking us back 20 years ago, to a ship sailing on a calm, bright sea. But the peace is shattered. That period came to be known as the Year of Catastrophe. A never-before-seen tree of colossal scale suddenly sprung up, with a world-shaking boom. In the middle of the Pacific Ocean, a great luminous world tree, Yggdrasil, had appeared on Earth. The speed of its growth was unbelievable, sprouting to a colossal size in just half a day, and in a mere 9 days, its vast branches had completely covered the skies, casting the world below into its shadow. The appearance of the great tree divided humanity. Many argued it was a sign of the end times, while others celebrated its advent, claiming it was a sure sign of blessings to come. However, this tree's real name was revealed in time. It was Yggdrasil, the world tree of myth. And on the 9th day of the tree's maturing, calamity fell upon us. From the sky, monsters descended. All across the globe, monsters began to unleash a series of cataclysms on an unprecedented scale. The global population was halved by the onslaught of these merciless fiends, and the remaining half fell subject to famine and disease. And in the final hour of our kind, when all seemed to be lost, a lone figure walked into the flames of destruction. He stepped forward to face the apocalypse. The beasts of ruin snarled, ready to tear him apart. A small ray of hope pierced through the darkness. But the monsters that had devoured armies were no match for him. As they leaped to attack, he prepared to unleash his power. With a mere flick of his wrist, he summoned a dark, formidable energy. The first awakened being, one who possessed godlike powers, came to be. This person was called an awakened. And among those who awakened and chose to hunt down monsters, they became known as raiders. The flashback ends, bringing us back to the present. The Asur system is the tool that aids these heroes of our time, and to this day remains their greatest asset. Which brings Jaehyun to a troubling thought. What if a great change occurs in this crucial system? No matter the reason for the system's failure, he can't help but feel that it won't lead to anything good. Just then, the mysterious green lights flare up again, beckoning him forward. He takes a step, his armored boots clanking on the stone floor, and as he follows the light, he finds himself standing before a huge, ornate doorway, looming in the darkness of the cave. His eyes widen in disbelief. It can't be. He shudders, not from fear, but from a surge of electrifying excitement. He recognizes the ornate carvings on the massive door. It's a treasure gate. They have an extremely low chance of appearing, even in high-level dungeons, and they lead to hidden rooms filled with loot. Behind them lie unimaginable riches. Normally they contain special items or hold exceedingly rare crafting reagents. As he places his hand on the gate, he remembers that the items found behind them are worth millions, and that's a conservative estimate. A desperate hope ignites within him. If I can obtain items or equipment above a rank here, I can finally say goodbye to this tedious life. He takes a deep breath and makes a silent plea. Please, if there's a god out there, allow me to obtain an item, a rank and above. With all his strength, he pushes the heavy gate, which groans open to reveal a blinding light. The space beyond is not a cave, but a majestic, otherworldly vista. He gazes in awe at the breathtaking sanctuary before him. Scanning the grand chamber, he remarks, "Wow, for a place like this to actually be in a dungeon, and here I thought they might just be urban legends." At the center of the hall, a single item radiates a powerful, divine light. A confident smile plays on his lips. I suppose that's the item I'm looking for. He walks towards the pedestal, ready to see if his gamble paid off. He confidently reaches out for the source of the brilliant light. His fingers make contact with the artifact, and the light intensifies, enveloping him. At that very moment, his system chimes to life. Limited functionalities are restored, and a notification appears. Obtained a new equipment item. A triumphant grin spreads across Jaehyun's face. Seems like things are finally looking up. His conked-out system came back up at just the right time. He thinks to himself that when it rains, it pours. In a good way. His conked-out system came back up at just the right time, confirming his acquisition of this mysterious new prize. And as he holds up the ornate, glowing eyepiece, the system officially registers the new equipment, asking if he'd like to view its information. The details appear. Name Odin's Lost Eye. Tier Mythic. It grants the power to decipher runes and nullify or destroy magic. It is the only one in the world. Jaehyun can only stare in utter disbelief at the item's rank. A mythic tier item. Something that shouldn't exist. He's left breathless, his mind reeling from the impossible truth displayed before him. But the notifications aren't done. He's also acquired a new active skill, the EX tier Absolute Calculation, which can identify and destroy the very algorithm of any magic. The effects are unbelievable. He learns the skill, gains mastery over runes for instant casting, and can even copy an opponent's skills. It's a power beyond his wildest dreams. The reality of the situation hits him. He remembers that the most valuable item ever sold at auction was merely S tier, and it fetched well over tens of millions of dollars. And mage items, being especially rare, are in such high demand that their prices are practically limitless. He clenches his fist, a wide, ecstatic grin spreading across his face as he shouts in his mind, "A mythic tier item! The only one of its kind! This changes everything. No more slave work. No more getting disrespected by smug guild members. And no more being a damn dungeon meat shield. His crappy life as a raider is finally over." He looks down at the glowing eyepiece, a hungry and determined glint in his eyes. Well, perhaps I should try it on just once. In the depths of a dungeon, the raider Jaehyun stares at the mythic item he's just found, Odin's Lost Eye. He thinks to himself that an opportunity like this is rare, and that he should at least try it on once before considering selling it. Just as he considers equipping it, a system window flashes urgently before him. It warns that Odin's Lost Eye will become permanently soulbound the moment it's equipped. Panicked by the thought, Jaehyun immediately shouts to cancel the action. He collapses to his knees in relief, letting out a heavy sigh. He was just a hair's breadth away from permanently binding a priceless mythic item to himself, a costly mistake he was glad to have avoided. Jaehyun gets back up, a confident smirk on his face as he holds the glowing eye. He decides there's no need for him to use it himself. An item this powerful will surely sell for billions on the black market. His resolve is clear. Despite discovering such a powerful artifact, his goal remains the same. He no longer wishes to live the dangerous life of a dungeon crawler. He reflects on his situation, remembering that he's already past the age of 20. At this point in a raider's life, leveling up and growing stronger becomes nearly impossible. Because of his stagnant growth, Jaehyun believes that keeping a mythic item for himself would be a complete waste of its potential. He touches the now empty pedestal, his decision made. Suddenly, a memory of the recent past flashes by. A critical system failure. It was an irregular behavior, a variable that fell outside the normal scope of the system's functions. Still, as Jaehyun recalls the unnerving event, he thinks to himself that such unexpected occurrences have become annoyingly familiar to him. He knows all too well that in a world where dungeons are real, anything and everything can happen to a raider within these treacherous grounds. He muses that these unexpected situations can usually be divided into two distinct categories. Finding the mythic item was the first category, luck. With his prize secured, Jaehyun decides it's time to head back to his party. And the second category is tragedy. Meanwhile, back at the rendezvous point, Jaehyun's teammate, a man in armor named Myongo, is starting to panic and fret over his friend's long absence. Myongo tries to reassure himself, but his anxiety grows. Just as he's about to lose hope, he turns and spots a familiar figure approaching. The party's leader, a mage in a blue robe, watches silently as Jaehyun trudges back towards them. Myongo calls out his name in relief. Jaehyun looks up as Myongo impatiently waves him over, telling him to hurry up so the party can get started. As soon as he arrives, the party leader immediately berates him. He sternly tells Jaehyun that he doesn't pay him to go wandering off on his own, and warns him not to make the same mistake again. Jaehyun humbly bows his head, apologizing and promising that it won't happen again. Myongo stands beside him, watching the exchange. Having said his piece, the party leader turns and walks away, leaving Jaehyun and Myongo to follow. Myongo glances over at his friend, his expression filled with concern. He can see the gloomy aura around Jaehyun after the leader's harsh words. Trying to lighten the mood, Myongo gives Jaehyun a friendly jab, telling him to just forget about what happened. But as he touches his friend's back, Jaehyun suddenly turns around, a bright, almost unnerving smile on his face. He cheerfully tells Myongo not to worry, that he's perfectly fine. The abrupt change in demeanor makes Myongo flinch back in surprise. With that same odd smile, Jaehyun turns away and offers to buy drinks tonight, claiming he can't be a freeloader forever. He walks off, leaving Myongo utterly bewildered by his friend's strange behavior. As Jaehyun steps forward to rejoin the formation, Myongo watches him with a lingering look of concern, unable to shake the feeling that something is off. Sweating with anxiety, Myongo scratches his head in confusion, wondering if Jaehyun bumped his head or if something else happened to cause his bizarrely cheerful mood. Jaehyun walks past without a word, his expression now cold and unreadable, leaving a perplexed Myongo to stare after him. Internally, Jaehyun breathes a sigh of relief. He hopes his awkward attempt at acting normal was enough to avoid arousing any suspicion from his teammates. He reminds himself of the harsh reality of their situation. They are still inside a dungeon instance, a lawless place where the normal rules of society don't apply and anything goes. In such a dangerous environment, letting anyone know that he had obtained an extremely valuable item would be the same as signing his own death warrant. He decides there's no need to rush things or act out of the ordinary. His best course of action is to simply stick to the plan and focus on finishing the dungeon. As he stands with his party, Jaehyun resolves that his utmost priority must be to keep his head down and just do his job. Suddenly, an ominous cracking sound echoes through the cavern. Unaware of the impending danger, the party leader looks over the formation and, satisfied that the line is set, prepares to give the order to move out. As the cracking sound intensifies, he gives the command for the party to begin their advance. The moment the command is given, a massive explosion erupts just ahead of the party, catching the leader completely by surprise. Jaehyun flinches as the ground shakes from a series of deafening booms, his newly acquired eye wide with shock. The force of the blast hits him full on, sending him screaming as he's thrown violently backwards. He skids and tumbles across the hard stone floor, completely disoriented and wondering what on earth is happening. Dazed and covered in dust, Jaehyun pushes himself up, trying to make sense of the sudden and chaotic attack. Before he can fully recover, a thick, purple gas begins to hiss and swirl around him on the ground. He looks up and sees that the entire area is rapidly filling with the ominous purple mist, engulfing the other members of his party. Panic spreads as the other raiders begin to choke and cough violently, crying out in confusion about the mysterious gas. Jaehyun immediately clamps a hand over his mouth, his eyes widening in horror as he instantly recognizes the deadly substance. It's poison fog. He knows that prolonged exposure to this fog will undoubtedly lead to death. The only option is to escape and fast. Just as he's about to make a run for it, he hears his name. Myongo is dashing through the fog towards him. Myongo covers his own mouth, his eyes wide with fear as he shouts that they need to get the hell out of there. Understanding just how dangerous the fog is, Jaehyun watches his friend desperately trying to reach him, his glowing orange eye remaining sharp and focused amidst the spreading chaos, realizing he needs to warn everyone. But before he can get the words out, a glowing blue blade slices through the purple fog, and blood splatters violently through the air. Jaehyun's eyes widen in absolute horror at the sight. Standing just in front of him, Myongo looks down in stunned disbelief, the magical blade protruding from his chest as blood drips from his mouth. Jaehyun screams his friend's name as Myongo coughs, splattering blood onto the hand of his unseen killer. With a final, sickening pull, the blade is ripped from Myongo's back, and he collapses to the ground in front of a horrified Jaehyun. Stunned, Jaehyun stumbles back, his heart pounding with raw terror. His survival instincts scream at him. He needs to run. Without a second thought, Jaehyun turns and dashes away, his heart hammering as he flees for his life. As he runs, the chaotic sequence of events flashes through his mind. The sudden, deafening explosion, the desperate skid across the floor as he was thrown by the blast, the noxious poison fog that instantly filled the halls, choking his party, the blur of a swift, deadly attack from the shadows, and the horrifying image of his murdered allies, their lives cut short in an instant. Jaehyun finally comes to a stop, clutching his bleeding shoulder as he pants for breath, his heart pounding from the adrenaline. As he tries to process the massacre, he comes to a chilling conclusion. A monster couldn't have done this. The attack was too coordinated. Sweat and drool dripping from his face, he realizes this has to be the work of professional dungeon hitmen. His mind races, trying to figure out the motive. Was their objective to kill everyone in the Yuzeong Guild? If so, the exit is probably booby-trapped. He weighs his terrible options. The exit might be guarded by another kill squad, or perhaps his only chance is to hide and wait for a rescue that may never come. Overwhelmed by the futility and horror of his situation, Jaehyun grits his teeth in anguish, cursing the world for what has just happened. But then, he takes a deep breath, forcing the panic down. He tells himself to get a grip, knowing that now is not the time to fall apart. His panic gives way to a cold resolve. He braces himself and mutters a defiant promise into the darkness. He declares that anyone who thinks they can simply snatch this mythic item from him is sorely mistaken. Just then, he hears a soft shuffling sound. A lone, hooded figure emerges from the darkness ahead, approaching him slowly. Jaehyun whirls around to face the enemy. As he turns, a blazing aura of golden energy, crackling with raw power drawn, swings the energized blade, unleashing a massive wave of destructive force. The attack creates a deafening explosion that shakes the entire cavern. Jaehyun grunts, feeling the backlash. The mysterious attacker lets out a condescending chuckle, tauntingly asking Jaehyun if he knows how tough he is. The man stops, his face hidden in the shadow of his hood, a sinister smirk playing on his lips. Jaehyun's blood runs cold. He recognizes the man's voice and silhouette, and he utters a single name in disbelief. Yumin! The man, Yumin Jong, lowers his hood, revealing a familiar face with glasses and a cruel, mocking grin. His grin widens as he looks at the shocked Jaehyun. I promised you, didn't I? That I'll be seeing you today. Jaehyun, now in his combat gear with a wound on his shoulder, looks back and says the man's name with dread. Yumin! With a glare, Jaehyun confronts him directly, asking, Are you the one behind all this? Jaehyun presses on, listing Yumin's crimes. The one who exposed us to that deadly fog. The one who attacked Yuziong and everyone else. Was it really you? A slow, wicked grin spreads across Yuman's face, confirming Jaehyun's worst fears. Yuman's expression turns manic as he gives a gleeful confession. Guilty as charged. Jaehyun's eyes widen in horror and rage at the casual admission of betrayal. Clutching his bleeding shoulder, Jaehyun tries to remain calm and assess the dire situation, demanding, "What's your motive behind this?" Yuman shrugs nonchalantly, revealing his cold professionalism. "Well, it's simple really. I'm just carrying out a contract for a client." He leans in slightly, a glint in his eye, and adds, "Besides, there's a long list of people with grudges against Yuziong." As Jaehyun grits his teeth in frustration, Yuman elaborates, "Given how snobby they've been acting lately, it's no surprise. Yuman is one of the infamous dungeon contract killers, otherwise known as dungeon hitmen. He belongs to a shadowy group known as dungeon contract killers, or dungeon hitmen. These assassins capitalize on the isolated nature of a dungeon to murder their victims with impunity. The images of fallen raiders, lying dead in pools of their own blood, show the brutal consequences of their work." Yuman continues his explanation. "From what I can tell, Yuziong Guild's latest tragedy, a flash of a fallen Yuziong Guild member, dead on the cold dungeon floor, illustrates his point. Was a case of the assailant taking advantage of a loophole in the system. Panic sets in. Realizing the immediate danger, Jaehyun curses and tries to make a run for it. But Yuman is already moving to intercept him. As Yuman is enveloped in a powerful blue aura, Jaehyun freezes, his mind racing. Could I take him on? The answer comes to him immediately, a grim and absolute certainty. No, that's impossible. He assesses the vast power gap between them. Yuman is not just any opponent. He's an A-rank mage, a gifted prodigy in the top 2% of the country. Jaehyun staggers back, painfully aware of his own weakness. I, on the other hand, am a meager D-rank raider. I'm not exceptional, nor am I completely incompetent. I'm average at best. A grim strategy forms in his mind. These guys never planned on taking me out in the first place. I just need to bite my tongue and stay silent. He swallows hard, his heart pounding. With Asir being down at the moment, it'd be too risky to make a run for it. He resigns himself to what he must do. A spineless maneuver indeed. But I've no other choice here. Flashes of his old party, his comrades in arms, fill his vision. The memories are painful, a gallery of friends now lost. One face in particular stands out, a cheerful man in armor. Especially Myongo. But the sobering reality is that there's nothing, absolutely nothing I can do against him. Steeling himself, Jaehyun looks towards his opponent and makes a desperate plea. Yuman, I'll forget everything that transpired here today. You have my word. But Yuman's expression remains cold and dismissive. He states a harsh truth of their reality. The world after Yggdrasil's emergence holds neither sympathy nor compassion for the weak. Jaehyun clenches his fist as Yuman's demeanor shifts, his voice dripping with menace as yellow energy begins to crackle around him. So, Jaehyun. Here's the thing though. In an instant, Yuman unleashes a massive torrent of fiery energy, blasting it directly towards the stunned Jaehyun. The attack connects, resulting in a violent explosion that engulfs the area. Jaehyun barely manages to throw up a guard, surviving the blast but with a fresh cut bleeding on his cheek. The sheer force of the impact is clear. He shudders, his eyes wide with terror at the close call. His mind reels with the terrifying realization. Had I reacted any slower, I would have died for sure. The thought left him frozen, utterly powerless before the man who was clearly just toying with him. Yuman gives a chilling sneer, enjoying the fear in Jaehyun's eyes. With energy crackling at his fingertips, he makes a finger gun gesture and reveals a critical piece of information. There's a secondary target that I am to dispose of today. The chilling words confirm that Jaehyun was never meant to leave this dungeon alive. Without a moment's hesitation, Yuman unleashes another furious barrage of magical energy, intent on finishing the job. Jaehyun desperately dashes to the side, narrowly avoiding the explosive impacts that tear up the ground around him. Now battered and bleeding, he curses the overwhelming difference in their power. Damn it! I need to get out of this mess somehow. But Yumin is relentless, snapping his fingers to conjure yet another attack. As another blast zaps past him, Jaehyun screams in frustration. Why's he specifically targeting me? I'm an insignificant D-rank raider. A nobody. Yumin watches with a calm, predatory demeanor, electricity dancing around him as he enjoys the chase. The question haunts Jaehyun as he continues to run for his life. Did I wrong someone in the past? Yumin prepares another devastating spell, his smile never wavering. Jaehyun's mind spirals into paranoia and fear. Does someone want me dead? Gritting his teeth, he desperately tries to connect the dots. Think. Come on, think. His blood-soaked eyes dart around frantically as he searches his memories for a clue. Who? Just who could want me dead? Jaehyun quakes as a sudden, terrible memory begins to surface, distorted by trauma. The fragmented memory shows a man's face contorted in disgust, his cruel words echoing in Jaehyun's mind. Worthless fool. The memory continues, the voice filled with venom. You never should have been born. Back in the present, Jaehyun's face is a mask of dawning horror and disbelief. He finally voices the terrible suspicion that has taken root in his mind. Is this father's doing? The unexpected question makes Yumin halt his attack, his condescending smile finally gone. The crackling energy around Yumin dissipates as he stands frozen in place, a silence falling over the battlefield. For the first time, Yumin seems genuinely taken aback, covering his mouth as his initial shock begins to curdle into a twisted, dark amusement. His shoulders begin to shake and his body twitches, not from being struck by the revelation, but from the sheer effort of trying to suppress the manic laughter that is about to erupt. Yumin's shock quickly morphs into amusement as he lets out a low, sinister cackle. The laughter grows louder, a maniacal cackle that echoes around the desolate dungeon, showing just how much he's enjoying Jaehyun's realization. He finally catches his breath. Ha! Seriously, he says, a twisted grin still plastered on his face as energy begins to gather around him once more. Yumin looks at Jaehyun with a newfound, perverse admiration. As sharp as ever. That's what I love about you. Jaehyun's face is a cold, grim mask. The horrifying truth has settled in, but it leads to an even darker question. Another memory surfaces. A faded photograph of a young man and woman, likely his parents. But the woman's face is ominously blotted out by shadow, a symbol of a forgotten or suppressed tragedy. A single tear escapes Jaehyun's eye as he musters the courage to ask his final, most dreaded question. His mind flashes back to a cold, clinical room, to the body of a loved one lying on a slab, covered by a white sheet. He remembers himself as a young boy, weeping uncontrollably in a dark hallway, a memory from a painful winter 5 years ago. With cold fury in his eyes, Jaehyun asks the question that has haunted him for years. Did that man ask you to carry out a job back then? Yumin bobs his head with a smile. Ah, I honestly didn't expect you to catch on to that one. I'm impressed, Yumin says, his eyes wide with glee, confirming Jaehyun's ultimate fear without saying it outright. Jaehyun's spirit shatters. A tear of pure blood trickles down Jaehyun's cheek. The confirmation has broken something deep inside him. Yumin, however, plays coy, unwilling to give a direct confession. It's a bit over my head, I'm afraid. With that, Yumin turns his back and begins to walk away, adding, I'm just a hitman who carries out his contracts. He leaves Jaehyun utterly destroyed in his wake. Yumin continues his chilling monologue, revealing the twisted motives behind his attack. With golden energy crackling around him, he speaks of a father who disposed of his own wife, and now targets his son. He unleashes a powerful blast of chaotic energy, a fiery projectile aimed straight at Jaehyun. But Jaehyun, battered and bleeding, manages to deflect the deadly blast just in time, the immense energy washing over him. Human looks on with a smug grin, sarcastically remarking on the tragedy of the situation, clearly enjoying the power he holds over Jaehyun. With a dismissive shrug, he continues his taunts, treating the life-or-death struggle as a simple matter of fact. Confident in his victory, Human bids a final, chilling farewell to Jaehyun. Jaehyun remains silent, his face a mask of grim determination as the fiery background reflects the intensity of his situation. He quietly processes Human's words, his lips pressed together in thought. Suddenly, the space around them glitches. A strange, digital interference pattern appears, buzzing with an unnatural energy. The digital anomaly intensifies, flashing violently as a mysterious, eye-like object materializes in a burst of red and gold light. A system intervention has begun. Human, caught completely off guard, leans in as if to ask for last words, his taunt cut short by the unexpected phenomenon. His confident smirk vanishes, replaced by a look of pure shock as he tries to comprehend what is happening. His eyes widen behind his glasses, disbelief written all over his face as the situation spirals out of his control. From a distance, Human watches in astonishment as an immense wave of golden energy erupts from Jaehyun, who stands alone in the center of the brilliant explosion. The sheer scale of the power-up forces Human to cry out in alarm, questioning the unbelievable surge in Jaehyun's mana. The ground beneath Jaehyun cracks and shatters under the immense pressure of his newfound power. Jaehyun stands firm, enveloped in a swirling aura of golden light and raw power, his demeanor completely transformed. A bead of sweat rolls down Human's face. He watches nervously, realizing with dread that Jaehyun's mana level is continuing to rise without end. Human gulps, his expression hardening. He realizes this is no longer a game. The unexpected turn of events could spell trouble, and he must end the fight immediately. Dropping his playful facade, Human declares that playtime is over and prepares to unleash his full power. He issues a final, deadly command, telling Jaehyun to be a good sport and die. Human launches a massive, horizontal slash of golden energy, a desperate final attack aimed at overwhelming his now powerful opponent. Jaehyun stands unflinching before the colossal wave of energy, ready to face it head-on. In response, Jaehyun raises his own sword, which now pulses with an intense golden light, positioning it perfectly to meet Human's final gambit. As the attacks are about to collide, a close-up on Jaehyun's eye shows it flaring with the same brilliant, golden power, revealing the true extent of his awakening at the moment of impact. Jaehyun effortlessly disperses Human's attack, standing unharmed amidst the swirling golden energy as the last remnants of the blast shatter harmlessly above him. Human can only stare in utter disbelief, his face a mask of shock as he witnesses the impossible. With his eye glowing a brilliant gold, Jaehyun looks back at his foe, a newfound confidence radiating from him in the fiery landscape. A system window glitches into view, announcing that Jaehyun has successfully equipped Odin's lost eye, and that the mythic item has now become permanently soulbound to him. A slight smirk plays on Jaehyun's lips. With a hint of dark humor, he comments that it's a shame the item is soulbound, as he can't sell it for cash anymore. Another system notification appears, informing him that a blank card is now available for use, granting him a new strategic option. Human lets out a scream of pure denial, finding it impossible to accept that his ultimate attack was nullified. His composure completely shattered, he frantically demands to know how Jaehyun was able to disperse his magic. Jaehyun takes a heavy step forward, the ground glowing under his feet. With cold indifference, he utters his opponent's name, Human. As the system announces that Odin's lost eye is now in effect and a blank card is being consumed, Jaehyun makes a chilling promise: to kill Human in the most excruciating way possible. The power of the mythic item manifests, revealing a glowing golden eye as he glares at his enemy with terrifying intensity. The system announces its next action. With the power of the blank card, it is now copying Human's active skill, Chains of Shock. Jaehyun turns the tables completely, summoning his own Chains of Shock. The golden, crackling rings of energy materialize around him, identical to the very magic Human had just used. Yumin can only ask in a choked voice how it's possible for Jaehyun to use his own signature skill. He stumbles backward, his mind reeling and his glasses shining blankly as he fails to comprehend the situation. As Jaehyun stands confidently with the stolen magic, Yumin's inner voice screams in frustration, lamenting the years it took him to master that very same power. His rage and disbelief continue to build as he questions how this lowly D-rank brawler could learn his advanced magic with such ease. He can't accept the reality of what's happening. Yumin grits his teeth in fury and desperation, trying to convince himself that Jaehyun is using some kind of trick and that it won't be enough to win. Jaehyun coolly replies that they'll just have to see, as the chains of energy around him begin to spark and hiss. He then unleashes the copied skill, sending the powerful chains of shock flying towards their original master. Yumin cries out in alarm as the flash of his own magic, now turned against him, closes in. The chains screech as they make contact. The copied skill detonates with a massive explosion, engulfing a stunned Yumin in a chaotic blast of his own magic. But Jaehyun isn't finished. He calmly presses the attack, sending another volley of shocking chains zooming towards the smoke-filled crater. Caught in the blast of his own magic, Yumin dashes out of the explosion, refusing to be defeated. With a furious expression, he gathers his own crackling energy, preparing a desperate counterattack. Yumin unleashes a massive flare of power from above, hoping to incinerate Jaehyun, who is far below. But Jaehyun is ready. As his eye glows, a system window announces the initiation of a new active skill: Absolute Calculation. Using the copied skill, Jaehyun directs the chains of shock to intercept Yumin's incoming blast. The golden chains screech as they wrap around Yumin's attack, completely ensnaring it. Jaehyun redirects the captured blast, sending it clattering back down towards a horrified Yumin. Yumin curses his opponent as he desperately tries to dodge the redirected attack. In a flash of blue light, Yumin activates a teleportation spell, creating a swirling vortex to make his escape. But a close-up on Jaehyun's glowing eye shows he is calm, his expression revealing that he anticipated this very move. The system confirms it, once again initiating the Absolute Calculation skill, predicting Yumin's every action. He's been perfectly intercepted. His eye briefly shifts, the pupil becoming a narrow, reptilian slit. But it's too late. Anticipating the teleport, Jaehyun's chains change their trajectory once more, homing in on their target. The chains find their mark, and Yumin is engulfed in a final, massive explosion. The battle is over. Jaehyun slowly trudges through the settling dust and smoke of the desolate battlefield. He stops as his boot steps on Yumin's fallen glasses. On the ground, a defeated Yumin reaches out a trembling hand. The once arrogant killer is now a broken man, coughing up blood on the floor. With tears streaming down his bloodied face, Yumin pants and begs for his life, pleading for Jaehyun to spare him. Jaehyun gives no reply. He answers the plea by mercilessly impaling Yumin with one of the golden chains, the weapon piercing straight through his chest. A sliver of Jaehyun's face is visible in the darkness, his expression cold and empty after delivering the final blow. With the adrenaline fading, blood trickles from his own mouth as he quietly wonders if the long battle is finally over. Jaehyun stands over the corpse of his enemy for a moment before his body gives out, flopping backward onto the ground. He collapses onto his back, completely spent from the ordeal. Blood trickles from his mouth as the cost of the battle finally settles in. A system-like message confirms his critical state. With no stamina and no mana, there is nothing left in the tank to keep him going. As his consciousness fades, Jaehyun reflects on the cruel irony of his situation. He finally managed to get his hands on a mythic item, only to die like this, just as victory was in his grasp. He muses that he was fooled for a while, thinking that Lady Luck was finally on his side. His world fades to black, with only a single, final word echoing in the void: death. It was a word he had faced countless times as a raider, but now he lies alone in the empty darkness, truly facing his end, but experiencing it firsthand. The feeling is different than he ever imagined. As his eyes flutter, The last sensation he registers is an overwhelming, encroaching cold. But then a sound. A ding cuts through the silence as a blue system window materializes, announcing the successful download of a new operating system and asking if he wants to run it. Through his bloodied, barely open eye, Jaehyun perceives the impossible system prompt before him. Another ding and a new message appears, delivering an unbelievable promise. Upon installation, the user will return back in time to the most desired point in their past. The words echo in his mind, his thoughts racing in shock as he questions if it really said, "Return back in time." A flicker of hope ignites within him. Barely able to speak, he wonders aloud if this system is offering to save him. He recognizes this as another unforeseen variable, a miracle just like the one that allowed him to win his fight. He considers the offer, acknowledging the uncertainty of whether this path will lead to a better future or a worse fate. With a faint, bloody smile, Jaehyun makes his choice. He accepts the offer and tells the system to run it. He blinks, his mind made up. He reasons that if this truly is his only option right now, then he has no other choice but to take the chance. A grim smile of acceptance spreads across his face as he thinks to himself, "What do I have to lose?" The system responds immediately. A red, glitching window whirs to life, announcing that it is initiating the new operating system. Norner. An image of three divine, blindfolded figures appears before him in a blaze of golden light. They are the Norns, the goddesses of fate who govern the new system. A mysterious runic phrase appears as the Norns begin their chant. The red-haired Norn, representing the past, speaks the first part of the incantation. The blonde Norn, representing the present, speaks the second verse of the powerful spell. And the white-haired Norn, representing the future, speaks the third part of the runic chant. As their voices combine, the spell is completed, unleashing a brilliant, sparkling wave of magical energy. A divine, blindfolded woman with flowing blonde hair reaches out her hand to Jaehyun, an offering from the gods. With nothing left to lose, he takes her hand, accepting the unknown pact. As their hands touch, ancient runes glow, sealing the contract with the Nornir system. System notifications flood his vision. He has become an archenemy of the powerful Asur, but in return, he's gained two new passive skills: Scrutiny of the Gods and Eye of the Absolute God. A final, ominous warning appears. The opposing gods of Asur are now watching his every move. Jaehyun's eyes shoot open, his heart pounding in his chest as he gasps for air. He springs up from his bed, completely disoriented. He glances around, sweat dripping from his brow, his mind racing to understand where he is. His eyes fall on his old desk as he mutters in disbelief, "What in the world just happened?" His gaze lands on a framed picture of a younger him with his mother, a relic from a life he thought was lost forever. He looks down at his own hands, a strange feeling washing over him. He stares at his palms, which feel different, younger, more vibrant. Suddenly, a pulse of golden energy erupts between his hands, startling him. The system confirms the impossible, its message glowing brightly before him. It had successfully transported him back in time to the period he most desired. His eyes widen in shock, the reflection of a world he never thought he'd see again captured in his pupils. Flashes of a painful memory surface. His mother, lifeless and covered by a sheet, the horrific accident, and his own younger self crying in despair. His shadow looms as he confronts the unbelievable truth. Did he actually go back in time? He tries to dismiss it, his mind clinging to a more logical explanation. It's gotta be a dream, but the feeling is too real. He stands in his old room, dazed and full of a fragile, unfamiliar hope. His eyes fall upon an old sepia photograph smiling together in a time before the tragedy. And then he sees her, his mother, vibrant and alive, standing right before him. His breath catches at the beautiful, impossible sight. This was a dream he never thought he would have again. Her warm, loving smile pierces through years of grief, and the reality of his second chance begins to overwhelm him. Tears begin to stream down his face, the overwhelming reality of this second chance finally hitting him. Letting out all his pent-up sorrow, Jaehyun lunges forward and wraps his arms around his mother, who is startled by the sudden, desperate embrace. He buries his face in her shoulder, crying uncontrollably as years of grief and longing pour out of him. She holds him gently, her initial shock turning into warm, motherly concern. This was the dream, the one moment in time he fought to return to, a dream he never wants to wake up from.